Hello everyone, I just want to share a verse with you found in the Gospel of Luke chapter 16 verse 10. And this is a passage that I've been meditating on, something that is concerning our lives, and I would like to share it with you. It says, he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much, and he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. And this verse is talking to the Pharisees, a religious group in that time, in Jesus' times. And this group of persons was particular, was having some qualities, was trying to follow God, but in their own way. And Jesus was often rebuking them for the way they were worshiping, they were trying to draw close to God. And they were really good, they were really perfect in some areas of their lives, but in other areas not so much. And those areas were really important. And what this verse is saying is that he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And there are things sometimes in our lives that we don't consider as something much, as something very important. These are the list of the things. Which are those things? Some things that we don't consider as sinful, some things that we don't consider as so important, but they might be important in God's eyes. And this is what I would like to talk with you today, that some things are important in God's eyes, and this is what we need to observe, this is what we need to follow. Maybe there is a small lie, small deceit. Sometimes we're trying to do something that is not right, and we're saying nothing happens, this is just a small lie, this is something that is not so important. But I'm telling you today that in God's word it is said that this is actually something very important. And I'm not referring to mistakes that we do when we're not careful enough, when we're distracted and maybe tired and we do some mistakes and we're not careful enough. No, I'm saying for something premeditated, something that we know that is not right. Maybe something least, maybe somebody might be thinking, I'm not robbing a bank, I'm not doing something so wrong, I'm just taking out $10, $10 or whatever you take, and it's not so much. But in God's eyes, He doesn't measure sin the way we measure it. Obviously, there are sins that are really serious and really awful in God's eyes, but there are sin, the way He looks at it, He looks at it at the same way. And obviously I'm not talking about human kind of perfection, that we need to be perfect and all. Obviously we're sinners, but we need to go ahead to progress, we need to go into sanctification. But which is our attitude towards sin? How do we face sin? What do we do? Do we sin and maybe we don't care much about what happened? Or how do we face it? I mean, there are things that we consider least. And Jesus in this context was talking for the money, for what is material, for the earthly material riches. And this is the parable of the unjust steward found in Luke chapter 16. And Jesus was talking about money, that they were not faithful with those kind of riches, unjust riches, he was calling them, everything that was having to do with earthly riches and money. And he was saying that he who is faithful, what is faithful also in much. But this example could be applied to any other example, any other sin. And sometimes when we're not faithful in those least things that we don't consider so important, God is not going to give us the responsibility of something more. It's not going to be, we're not going to be given the responsibility of something more in front of God. And maybe we're looking for God's kingdom, maybe we're going to church regularly, maybe we're looking for more of Him, but we don't progress. Why? Because there are things in our lives that we consider least, we consider not so important, and we say nothing happens, might be a mistake, but this is something least, it's not so serious, it's not so heavy in God's eyes or in the eyes of other people, but actually it is something serious, because depends on how is our attitude with that sin, and we do that mistake, and we're stuck there, and as we don't progress, we don't fight it, we don't consider it even as something sinful, God is not going to bless us with something more. And obviously the way that we can go ahead in our spiritual life and progress is through God's grace, through God's mercy, through His power in our lives. This is not something that we achieve by ourselves. But look at something so interesting. The Pharisees were so perfect in the details, in the way they were even giving tithe of what was least, of the mint, of the anise, of the cumin. Jesus was saying this to them in Matthew 23, chapter 23, verses 23 and 24. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faith. This you ought to have done without leaving the others undone. Blind guides who strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. And he was telling them that they were giving tithe of something so less, so little. They were paying attention to the details, to how they were dressing, to how they were doing certain things. They were really perfect in their lives. But what kind of details? What was outwardly? What was on the outside, but not on the inside? And when we look at the details in our lives, to be clean, we need to see on the inside. He was telling them to clean the cup from the inside. When the inside is clean, then also the outside of the cup will be clean. So also our other habits of life, our parts, areas of our lives will be clean when we clean on the inside. And how do we clean our lives on the inside? This was the problem. This was what the Pharisees were lacking. And how do we clean our lives on the inside? Through God's grace, through Christ's blood. That's why He shed His blood on the cross, so that we can receive His grace and say, Jesus, we're sinners. I am a sinner. I want to receive you, clean my life. And this is the way how we can pay attention, how we can sort out what is least, what we consider as least. But maybe it's not least. Maybe it's like a camel. Maybe we swallow a camel in our life, something that is actually great, something that's actually important in God's eyes, but we consider it something least. Why? Because Jesus was saying this to the Pharisees also. I mean, the same persons to whom He said that they need to be faithful in the least, that they were not faithful in the least things. He was telling them that they were swallowing a camel. I mean, maybe in their eyes, those things were something small, something not so serious, not to consider. But actually in God's eyes, there was something important. And we're talking about something, yes, small, maybe something in your job, something that you mustn't do, something that you thought not to do by your boss, I don't know, or there are certain rules, there are certain authorities that we need to be submitted to. Obviously, I'm not talking just to submit to a man here, but to submit to God, because He's telling us not to lie, He's telling us to be obedient, He's telling us to be sincere, to live in a light. Rather, maybe sometimes when we do a mistake, when we do something that is not right, we need to admit it before God and also before others, not to live in darkness, because maybe we hide for something that we consider something least, but at the end it's serious. It's better to be right with God than just right with man. Sometimes we want to have certain kind of appearance and to appear right in front of men's eyes, with the cost of our sanctification, with the cost of our spiritual life. On the inside, maybe we're hiding, we're doing something that is not right. But the way that we can get free is through God's grace. And of course, I'm not saying to be perfect, to have everything, I mean, in order. the way we dress, the way we behave. I mean, sometimes, or the way we do certain things, the way we keep, I don't know, our homes and all those things in order. But on the inside, to be right. I mean, to live in truth, to live in the light, to live in the right way before God, because this is what's important in God's eyes. He talks much more about living in the light, about living in truth, about being sincere than just having certain areas of our lives in order, than just having certain appearances in our lives in order. When we sort out what is on the inside, everything else will be sorted out as well. And that's why my advice is to keep on believing in God. We're not perfect, but He's sanctifying us. He's performing the work of sanctification in our lives. We just need to be sincere, to live in the light, to live in the truth, and to believe in His name. This is the way. And thank you for listening, and subscribe to this channel to receive more videos. Thank you.